ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Fallout Bar. It is here. It is time. It is Christmas. Liam, it is Christmas time. That's where we go with this one, buddy, because the PDC World Championship has begun. How are we doing, pal?
Good. Like you said, officially Christmas. Now it starts. We've been waiting for this now for all year now for this World Championship to start, and I'm sure now over the next couple of weeks we're going to be well entertained with plenty of good darting action.
We are indeed. Sorry, I got really excited on that intro then, by the way. Like, we've got new music, and I was like, yeah! I was really jamming into it, and then I forgot when it was actually about to finish. But, yeah, superb start. Good evening to everybody in the chat room. The world is here. How are we all doing? Plenty of you been chatting so far, though. Daniel's in, G's in, Daniel Syson's in as well. Who else do we have? Tommy's in as per usual. Mr. David, Bob, Tommy Boy, Bonkers, all in. Good to see you guys. How we doing? Sorry, I was just absolutely buzzing off this. It's a good job I am, though, because I think if this was any other tournament, I might be sat here a little bit depressed. It wasn't the best opening. It wasn't the best standard for an opening night of the World Championship we're ever going to see, I think is a fair assessment of tonight, Liam. But it's the World, so we just don't care, do we?
Yeah, especially when it's the first night as well. I just think we all wanted to just get underway. We're happy that it's starting. We're on that world's buzz now. And it can only go up from here after that first night's action. So I'm sure we'll all be buzzing again tomorrow with a double session. We
should indeed. Yeah, that means less sleep, even more so for me than what I've been used to for the last few weeks. But look, wouldn't have it any other way. Simon's in as well. He says, good evening. Nell says, righty. Yeah, let's not read that one out. Yeah, it was an interesting night, and there's plenty to look forward to tomorrow as well. As per usual, if you're new to the Fallout Bar, just run you through the plan here this evening. So we'll go over all of the action from this evening's session with all the big talking points, how we feel they went. We do usually have some interview clips from the winners as well. I'm just waiting to confirm that we're going to get those this evening from our man on the ground, Phil Bars, who is at Alexandra Palace for the entire tournament. And then we'll look ahead to tomorrow's sessions, give a few previews or predictions on how we expect those games to go. And then inevitably someone else will be sat here tomorrow night. We won't go back on them, and someone else will do more predicting tomorrow. But that's just how the Fallout Bar works here at Online Darts. If you haven't done so already, do drop us a like on the stream. It really helps us out massively. And subscribe to the channel as well. We are really close to approaching 30,000 subscribers as a channel right now. And that means you can get involved in the chat room as well, because you can only do that as a subscriber. Right, Liam, let's talk about some matches, shall we? We opened the 2023 PDC World Championship with a match between Mickey Mansell and Ben Robb. On paper, a really tight encounter, this one. Mickey's had a decent return to the Pro Tour this year as a tour card holder, picked up around £30,000 of ranking money. Ben Robb still not got a tour card, but we did see him in the Modus Super Series last week, getting into match practice. Really competitive in that. Eventually, though, Mickey Mansell getting over the line 3-1 to close this one out, 47% on the outer ring. A little bit of a shock at just how quickly he came flying out the trap. So 110 average in that first set.
Yeah, and it was probably that first set that set him up nicely to win that match. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I mean, he absolutely flew out of the blocks. He looked untouchable in that first set. And I think even Ben Robb was probably a little bit surprised how Mickey Mansell came out of the blocks there. Usually we see some opening day or opening first set nerves from them. And look, Mansell flew out, like I said, and just done enough. I mean, 3-0, he waltzed through that first set. But Robb did well to get back in the game, I thought, and really battled on well. And it was nip and tuck really from then on in. After that first set, there wasn't much in it at all, but Mansell just doing enough in the end.
Yeah, it seemed to be the way in that match, as you just said it. I thought Robb was competitive, obviously missed chance to take us to 2 sets all. He missed double 18 for the 110, I think it was, in that second set to force a decider. But it just seemed that Mickey had done enough in the sets where Mickey had the darts, and then stealing that fourth set was the way to get over the line in that one.
Yeah, and I think Robb hit a 118 out in the fourth set. He looked like he was doing well. And like you said, just missed the match or the couple of set darts to bring it all the way. And look, we don't know what could have happened if he'd have managed to brought that all the way. But look, Mansell just seemed comfortable. He was steady after that first set. That was brilliant. He just steady all the way through in the remaining sets and just done enough to get over the line. And look, we could see how much it meant to him at the end. I mean, he was obviously buzzing. He doesn't have the best of records at Ali Pali. I think that was his 7th appearance, and he I think he's only made it past the first round once. So look, I mean, we could see by the way his reaction was at the end, and that he was just probably targeted this game, and it was a good victory for him.
Yeah, I think you're right. That is just 2 wins at Ali Pali now for Mickey Mansell. Both of them coming against Kiwis, formerly against Halpai Puro, tonight against Ben Robb. Let's have a quick chat on Ben Robb. Clearly got something about him. We've seen him at World Cups now. We've seen him at World Series before. We've seen him at World Championships now. Still waiting for him to produce that extra level, that extra gear, that 95 plus in a performance that really puts his hand up and goes, yeah, he's got that A game level to compete. I think at the minute, I think his A game is where most of the tour's B game is. And at that point, not really there. But he is a player that if he did commit to 2 years on the tour, you could see massive improvements by playing weekly, because he's certainly got something about him in that respect.
Yeah, and I suppose there's a lot of players really on the fringes, and Ben Robb is probably one of them that if he can manage to get his tour card, or he gets a run of games against the PDC players, if he manage to get one of them, and his standard will improve if he's playing against better players week in, week out, or year in, year out, if he can get the card. And maybe he just has to go to Q school if he's going, and try and win one of them, and then that's when we might see the standard rise a little bit, and he'll be able to compete more against some of these professional players.
Yeah, a word on Mansell then. Look, we're gonna talk about him a little bit more in a minute as well, because of the way that the opening night works in the PDC, and the fact that we knew this was coming. So a solid win. It's difficult to play first, especially when you've got the record he did. That opening set would have settled him down massively, and he looked pretty content and pretty comfortable up there at that point, didn't he?
Yeah, and I was surprised because, I mean, like what we said previous, I mean, his World Championship record is not great. I mean, I think he averaged 92 in the end. I mean, it was really, really solid performance from Mansell. I mean, we've seen what he can do on the floor sometimes on the Pro Tour, but we haven't really ever seen that translate to the stage before tonight. But look, a really solid performance. He clearly has targeted this game as a chance to get his 2nd win at the Worlds, and I thought it was really, really solid first game for him.
Yeah, it was indeed. Right, let's move on to the second game then. Obviously, we did not interview Mickey Mansell because he did have to play again that evening. So there's no shelf life to that content. He's not obliged to give an interview at that point by the PDC. But we do have clips of the next 2 winners for you throughout the night. So match number 2 was game number 2. And we've probably got shock number 1 of the tournament here. There was a lot of people, including Keane Barry, in their dark horse suggestions for this tournament. Fantastic young player, great temperament when we've seen him play before, narrowly beaten by Callum Ridds at the Players' Championship finals in Minehead a few weeks ago, and had a really cracking season as he's built on his development form and whatever else that he's produced in the past as well. But from 2-0 up in the first set, manages to find himself losing that one to Grant Sampson, the South African, who then goes on to win 3-1. And there were still moments where you're looking at it going, how is this happening? But Barry just had absolutely no response tonight, did he?
No, and look, I know I shouldn't jump to conclusions so early, but at 2-0, I was thinking, how on earth is this man beating Devin Peterson in the African qualifier? But look, I mean, both players look really nervous early doors, and Barry didn't settle at all throughout the whole match. Sampson, I mean, doubling wise, it was a little bit dramatic. None of them could really hit any sorts of doubles throughout the whole match. I think they only averaged 23%. The pair of them averaged 23% on the doubles. I mean, average wise, it was a poor match. It was the worst match of the night, but it still made for entertaining an entertaining contest because of how poor some of the doubles were. But look, I was surprised by Sampson. He dug deep, really. I know the average doesn't suggest that it was a brilliant performance, but he done really well. Even at 2-1, I was expecting Barry to kind of claw his way back into the match. I never really felt like Barry was in much danger until the end. I mean, and Sampson just held his nerve and managed to get over the line. It was really, really great win for him. It's probably as poor of as I've seen Keane Barry. I know we've seen a lot of him since he's been quite young. I mean, he's always been a brilliant player whenever I've seen him, and especially this year he's done really, really well. But I mean, some great moments in the match from Sampson. I think he had the 1-2-5 at one stage. But look, at the end of the day, I think it was 40 trebleless visits from Keane Barry over the course of the match. And he just doubles just evaded him, and it looked like me on the practice board with some of them doubles. They were miles off.
Yeah, they were indeed. Evening to a few people in the chat room. Laura's joined us. Jack Nolte's in. Craig is in as well. Good to see you guys. Colin as well. Look, I don't want to go making excuses for people. That's not what we're here for, but we are here to assess the game. It certainly looked to be that Keane Barry was struggling with the temperature up on stage. You could see him trying to blow some heat into his hands a little bit. Phil has been at Alexandra Palace all day. He arrived he did an interview with Matt Porter this morning and then has been working there ever since, right? They were late to arrive. They were late to put the heating on. And since then, the heating has packed up at Ali Palace. So it is absolutely freezing there, even with the body heater, the fans in there and whatever else. In some places in the UK, it's been as cold as -8 degrees today. That is not ideal dart playing temperatures. Most would rather be, as a dart player, I think you'd rather be too warm than you would too cold. You can use a towel, you can sort your hands out. If you can't get heat into your hands, you can't open your hand quick enough for somebody who throws as quickly as Keane Barry does, can't get grip on the darts at all, that's going to struggle. And I think he's fallen foul of that a little bit. Not 100%. I can't go making excuses for it, saying, oh, that's the reason he won. But from what we do know about these guys, Keane Barry is a more consistent and better professional dart player. And we think that looking at that may have played a part this evening.
Yeah, and look, I mean, it was obvious. I mean, every visit he was trying to warm up his hands. It was quite obvious from the television coverage that we saw. And especially with, like you said, a player that plays at his pace, any slight alteration to the release of the dart from the hand is going to, and we could see it. I mean, the amount of the darts that dropped below the treble 20 segment or really, really low in the 19 segment, it was kind of unusual. For such a good player like Keane Barry to be dropping them darts so low. Clearly there was something that wasn't quite right, and again, even if the mental aspect of it, when he realizes that that something is not quite right and he's playing on him, he didn't settle at all in that match. You could see it just looked a little bit unnerved. Especially when you start missing doubles then, and if you can't release the dart properly and the heat isn't right. I mean, it is a game of small margins at the end of the day, especially when they're playing in with the biggest tournament in the world. Every little thing makes a difference up in that stage.
Yeah, and I almost want to commend him in that respect as well, because he is still a young player. He still does lack experience compared to an awful lot of players in this tournament, but when that if that is what transpired, and it was 100% tonight that the heat has played a massive part in it, and that sort of thing, if at that point it's out of your control and he wasn't getting frustrated or aggressive with it or anything like that, there was no stropping or sulking about. You saw him at the second break just shrug a little bit as if to say, what can I do, sort of thing, and he responded with that third set, but it just didn't quite fall Keane Barry's way tonight. But as such a young player with such a long career ahead of him, he will learn from this moment as well, knowing that actually I need to take that into account next time.
Yeah, and look, I suppose it's easy to forget sometimes how young Keane Barry still is. I think he's only 20. So, I mean, he's going to have many, many world championships to come in the future. And look, sometimes you have to take these defeats to learn from them and build on them. And I mean, he's so much success this year up to now, and look, you're always going to have the peaks and the dips in your career, and I'm sure he'll bounce back from this and he'll learn from this. I mean, he's only very young, like we said, and And look, I mean, he was only taken out last year from the brilliance of Johnny Clayton, with all those ton plus finishes. And look, I mean, this is just an off night and it happens. He'll just have to dust himself down and go again next year and improve on what he's done this year.
Yeah, he will. Evening to a few more in the chat room. Jars, join us. Simon says Samurai, new favourite nickname in darts. Currently -11 in Birmingham. Now, I know it's a few hours since Keane played. There is a couple of hours journey between Birmingham and London. But for those of you outside the UK, that's pretty bloody cold, is basically the way to say it. John O'Shea's in. Good to see you, mate. Hope your practice is going well ahead of your trip to the Pally. He says, me and Cammy are plumbers. I'll be over on Monday and I'll bring the tools to fix the plumbing. Let's have a quick chat about Grant Sampson then. I'll be honest, and I think this speaks for you and probably most of the team as well, and actually an awful lot of people in media and in positions that we're fortunate enough to be in sometimes as well. None of us know an awful lot about Grant Sampson. Even one of the outlets even one of the Dutch outlets that we're friends with, posted a thing early going, like us, were you unfamiliar with Grant Sampson before this tournament? Here's a little video we've done on him ahead of the tournament, right? I don't think that's disrespectful to say. Nobody'd really heard of Grant Sampson because Devon Peterson has been so dominant in the South African field. He's used that qualifier as a fullback, basically. We have seen others come through it. Charles Graham Philby and the likes have played pairs with him in the past. But Grant's one that we've not really come across before. But pretty impressed with his action. Pretty solid. Fired in 4 180s on his debut at the Alley Pad, and obviously wins 3 sets. Doubling percentage could be a bit better, a little bit more consistent, granted. But for a player that, as Dan Dawson kept mentioning on the commentary, who, by the way, was superb, and it's about bloody time, the most Grant's ever played in front of is like 50, 60 people. He's playing at the Alexandra Palace tonight on TV in front of millions of people around the world, and he's just beaten one of the hottest young prospects in darts. Like, that's some achievement, even at a 77 average.
Yeah, and Dan did remind us a couple of times how many people he had played in front of during his career. Yeah, like you said, I mean, a really solid action. The scoring actually wasn't too bad from him. I know the doubles let him down in the end. And I actually quite liked watching him there this evening. I think he had a bit of passion in him. You could see he was fired up with some when he was taking them doubles out and he was winning them sets. He really got into it, and it didn't look like, I know averages aside, it didn't look like it was his first time on a big stage, I must admit. And I know we were all surprised to see him come through the qualifier earlier in the year, but I mean, look, he had nothing to lose coming into tonight's match. He would have known that he was a massive underdog as well. And look, he has nothing to lose in the next match as well. And look, I mean, fair play to him. He got the job done tonight. Wasn't pretty average wise, but he'll be delighted. He'll be over the moon after tonight's match to win 3-1 and get through to the round 2.
Yeah, I mean, I don't big him up very often, but Tug's in the chat room and he just said, I thought he played well. His timing was impeccable. That's the way to say it. Look, 77 to 78 average. It didn't feel like that watching the game. There were still those moments and those key moments, and it constantly felt like one hit a big score, the other responded. It was sort of that ebb and flow, and Sampson is the one that's come out on top of that tonight. Let's hear then from Grant Sampson in his post-match press conference.
He's always been, myself and Devon has been friends for a very, very long time. So even just before he came over, we had a regular practice session. So he's been making it big. So it's every boy's dream back home to be like Devon. And I'm just glad I have him in my life. So him and his dad calls me every day. I call him every day if I need advice. So, I mean, he's been in my corner since day one. Since even with the qualifier, he's been in my corner, and I'm really grateful to have him as part of my life, helping me with this journey.
Good to hear from Grant saying how Devon Peterson has helped him prepare for this World Championship, and it's earned him a spot in round 2 of the tournament. On to match number 3 this evening then. And again, this is another league that actually, despite sub-90 averages, 88 and 87, I thought this was a pretty good game. Timing comes into this one again massively, trading off scores when they need it. They're missing at the same time. It wasn't terrible. They just weren't firing in the treble as consistent. There was a lot of 60s, 59, switching around, chasing that treble a little bit, but both players were doing it. And it made for a good watch, especially at the pace that these two play at.
Yeah, and look, I mean, the pace, like you said, they're both quick players. It was a game. It was a nip and tuck game again. Both had starts to win the opening set. Rafferty looked really comfortable for a man of his age. I mean, I know we've seen him at the Grand Slam. And I mean, what I mean, if throws 100 miles an hour sometimes, but it's hard to keep up with how quick. I mean, there was one stage I don't think. Rafferty had the darts nearly out of the board, and Watamina was throwing them in again. But look, yeah, it was a really entertaining match. Like I said, it was nip and tuck, good, played at a good pace, and when that happens, and when it's so close, and you don't know what way it's going to swing, you kind of ignore the averages almost sometimes, and you just enjoy the game. And I actually thought it was going to go all the way in the end, but it wasn't to be. But yeah, an entertaining game between two entertaining players.
Yeah, I mean, Jermaine's had a bit of a rise in the back end of the season, I think. He's certainly been more noticeable on tour than he has been for a long time now, perhaps since, I think, his win in Amsterdam. He won a couple of games in the World Series. That was his first win on TV in about 18 months at one point. His last win in a TV tournament before that was on Streamboard 2 at the UK Open. So even that really wasn't a thing. It was looking like Worlds 2 years before that. So it wasn't the riches that perhaps people expected from Jermaine Watamena when he was pushing up for top 32 and beyond. But I guess a little bit disappointing for him, but a superb result for Nathan Rafferty as development tour player, still building experience, still got so much time ahead of him. And a performance that in the past, when we've seen Nathan Rafferty win big games in the PDC, whether that be on the Pro Tour or in TV events, he's had to produce near his A game. To win a scrappy game will benefit him here massively.
Yeah, and look, he looked really comfortable up there tonight. I just thought he looked at home. I mean, he looked like he was buzzing on his walk on, and look, yeah, it was an 87. He battled his way over the line. When I thought in that last set that Watamena was just turning the tide a little bit, I thought he was gonna just get over the line through his experience. I mean, he's been here. I mean, he's had a couple of Trinidad matches at Ali Pali down through the years. I think he played Gary with a match against Gary a couple of years ago. He was brilliant really unlucky in that one. But look, Rafferty, I mean, again, he's going to be another one like Keane Barry. He's going to be around for a long time, you'd suspect. Really capable. Got over the line well. Sometimes with Watamena, I just feel that it's just almost too quick for his own good. I think when it comes down to when you just need to take that split second just to compose yourself in the crucial moments of matches, and I just think, I mean, some of the switching when it comes down to the doubles, I don't know how he can compose himself to even get anywhere near the double. It's that quick. But look, good win for Rafferty, and he'll be buzzing that he's in the next round.
Yeah, it is indeed. I think that's the biggest takeaway from tonight. Look, the pace of Jermaine Watamena is obviously noticeable and will have a certain... Visually, he will look a little bit more flustered constantly, but the difference in maturity and how comfortable they seemed up on stage at that point, you would have thought Nathan Rafferty's been doing this for a long, long time in comparison to Jermaine, who's actually been on the tour 5, 6, 7, 8 years or whatever it is. The difference in Rafferty tonight, I think, in the past, in tight games or big moments, when he's letting go of the dart, there's a look on his face of hope or angst that it's going where it is. That was gone tonight. It was just calm, cool. Yeah, I've thrown my dart. If it doesn't go where it needs to, the next one. There was a maturity to Nathan Rafferty tonight, and that's the first time I've really seen that on TV at that level. It was sort of there at the Grand Slam, but it was a step above tonight, and that was even better from him, I thought.
Yeah, and especially, I mean, the more experience he gets on these bigger stages, the better he'll become. I mean, there's no bigger stage than tonight. I mean, and like you said, the fact that he could get over in a match in a tight game when, look, he didn't play absolutely brilliant, but he done enough. He won the scrappy game, and all that experience will count for him going forward, because you have to learn to win ugly sometimes, or when you're not at your peak your powers, you've got to learn to win them scrappy games. And I think this match could be far better for him to win than maybe if he'd have won 3-0 tonight and aced past Watamena, that he needs the experience of winning scrappy and winning tough and tight matches, and especially at the Ali Pali, it'll stand for him, and I think it's a really, really good victory for him tonight.
Yeah, it wasn't good. Let's then hear from Nathan Rafferty in his post-match press conference.
Considering I went through an operation last Thursday, got my appendix took out a week ago today. And then playing in the second round is a good achievement for myself, but I'm just so happy to get past that against a tough opponent. Really, to be fair, he's one of them players who can go hit everything, but then when he doesn't, you try to take advantage of it. So I'm happy.
You mentioned they're getting your appendix taken out last week. Far from the ideal preparation. Was there any ever doubt about you having to compete here? Or were you always...
It was last Monday. I felt the pain, like someone hit me in the side, so it was. And then I knew something wasn't right, so I went in. And Thursday night I got the operation. Lucky enough, I didn't bust. So if I would have busted, it would have been game over. I wouldn't be here. But lucky enough, got took out 3 or 4 days healing. Started practicing Monday, Tuesday, and around it a few hours. But no. Happy to do the job.
You just don't get these stories anywhere else, do you? The World Championship, sad. I had my appendix out a week ago, and I've just won a match that was worth £15,000 now. Is just ridiculous for somebody who's 20 years old.
I couldn't believe I nearly forgot about that again. I mean, that makes it even more remarkable. And look, we can see he's battling qualities off the hockey now, and we can see that he has them on the hockey now as well. I mean, it must have been painful that what he's had to go through the last week or so, and the fact that it probably had a negative effect on his practice time, the amount of time that he was able to spend on the board in the last couple of weeks. But maybe that just made him play with the pressure off tonight and said, "I'm going to go for it." Couldn't have been much worse than the last week or two pain wise. I'm going to go up there and look. I mean, he's not had a bad turnaround in a couple of weeks.
Not at all, and he is through to the second round. A player that is through to the third round, though, which is 12 days away, by the way. It's mad how this tournament works. We understand why it does, of course. You want the world champion play on opening night, but already in round 2, moving on to round number 3 is the defending champion and world number 2 right now, Peter Wright. I lose track of them in it because they've changed so often, and it's likely to change again at the end of this. And no idea. I'm pretty sure he's world number 2 at the minute. Peter Wright, a 3-0 winner over Mickey Manser, who obviously played twice in the evening. Complete contrast in performance from Mickey, from how he played in match number 1 to how he played in match number 4. A solid but unspectacular performance from Peter Wright. It goes down as an 88 average and 40% on the doubles. I think there was a little bit more in there. I think there was a couple of legs where just dropped off completely. That second leg in the first set, I think it was. I don't think the pace helps Peter Wright. I think he does prefer players that are a bit quicker, even though he can be quite methodical himself. And look, given the situation with Peter, given that Joe has spent time in hospital, it was great to see her back at Ali Pally tonight, and Peter all dressed up in the Grinch outfit. We all know how much he relies on Joe for that. And he pulled out the Players' Championship. We don't know how much match practice he's actually got, but he did what he needed to do. He's into the next round. He's into the third round. He'll be back on the 27th of December. You can't win the World Championship on opening night, but you can definitely lose it. And he's just done enough to put himself into the next round. 12 more days of practice. There's a good chance we can see Peter Wright going a bit deeper than I think people imagined, even after a performance that headline number is an 88 average.
Yeah, and look, I mean, them early rounds for the top players are just about getting through unscathed and getting back to after Christmas as well. I mean, there was a couple of moments of brilliance in there. The 1-2-6 in the third set, the 1-2-1 in the first set. Look, like he said in his post-match interview, I mean, he probably wanted to be pushed a little bit more because he hasn't had much match practice over the last couple of weeks. Mansell, in fairness to Mansell, it was always going to be tough to come back after playing in the first match of the night. I mean, all your preparation goes into that, and for him, having only won one match on that stage before, he probably just targeted that one to think, I just want to get through to the second round, and it really looked like he'd run out of steam by the time he got back on stage there against Wright. And am I right in saying that the only leg he won was that 20 dart breaker throw in the second set?
Yeah, it was 1 from 7 on the outer ring. Set score was 3-1, 3-0, 3-0. I mean, look, we're not going to completely ignore a certain factor of alcohol. There has been problems with Mickey in the past. He's notably and quite famously been fined for not playing to the best of his ability in this tournament in the past. And is there a possibility that he got his preparation wrong for this second game? It certainly looks it a little bit. His interview wasn't the most coherent after the first game, and then he's playing again 3 hours later. And I think if he didn't have such a bad record at Ali Pali, I think we might have seen something slightly different tonight. But when your record is so bad at Alexandra Palace, you're one from 6 attempts, I think, here before. You've only ever won one game before, or whatever it is. Everything in his mind would have been gearing up just to make sure you get through that first round. If he doesn't have to play twice tonight, it's a different conversation as well, because you can do that. But having to prep for 2 games or potentially prep for 2 games in a tournament where your record suggests you're not even going to get past the first one means you put everything into the first one. It paid off for him, and then he couldn't get the balance right for the second one. It is what it looks like from the outside. Like, I'm not going to sit and tell you I think he was blind drunk or anything stupid like that, but alcohol is still in the game. We're not naive enough to suggest it's not, and given that that's happened in the past, it's just not the best look, I think, as a benefit.
Yeah, and I suppose we all have had experience, or most of us would have had experience of playing, and you have to peak at the right time and get the level right in terms of when you're going up in the stage. And look, I mean,
Mate, I spent 80 quid last night and had 13 drinks in a local league. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that people don't drink to play darts.
There is no right level anyway. Trying to get it right is very, very difficult, even at that highest level. But I suppose for Mickey, like we said, I mean, he's just won his tour card back again this year. That even the prize money alone to make it into the second round is massive for Mickey Mansell. I mean, he, especially like we said with his record, everything I would suspect was on that first game. Like, he would have known well in advance if he'd have won who he's playing in the second round, and even if he'd have produced the performance of his life this evening. I mean, Peter Wright just has gears that we know he can go through so quickly, and I mean, the chances are the odds would have been stacked against him. So I mean, in his eyes, I mean, he's probably, I don't think he's going to be disappointed going away this evening. I think he'd have been very happy that he's got his second win up in that stage. Prize money wise, in terms of keeping his tour card after next year, I mean, that'll be the overall aim for him, you would suspect. So I think overall, going away from this evening, Mansell will be happy. Probably peaked in the first game, but that's probably what he intended to do as well. And anything after that was just going to be a bit of a bonus for him. And look, from Peter Wright's point of view, it's true to after Christmas now. It was nothing spectacular, but I mean, he might like this now. I mean, he hasn't been talked up by anyone really. He's been ignored, and he will be the first to remind us very, very quickly that he is fully intent on retaining this title of his. He didn't do it a couple of years ago, and he will be. But he's one of the few players, I would say, that can come into this tournament with so little match practice and be able to switch it on like a light switch. I mean, he's one of the few players out there anyway that can do that. So, I mean, look, he's true after Christmas, and Mansell won his match as well, so I don't think he's going to be too disappointed.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Look, I think Bob makes a good point in the chat room as well, that he was playing against 2 people with 2 different styles of throw. On a Pro Tour or a Euro Tour or whatever, where you play games multiple times a day or whatever, the stakes are significantly lower. So you do just go into it and go, right, I'm doing this. I've seen players, once the draws come out in the past, go and specifically find out practice partners in advance of the tournament that play in a certain style. If you've got a particularly slow player in the first round, you go and find somebody that's slow to practice against. I've seen it done. So to prepare for 2 different styles like he has tonight, Rob and Mansell and whatever else, are we making the odd excuse for him? Potentially, but I guess it works both ways. That £15,000 is massive for him. Still going into second year of his tour card next year. Poor record in the past. Job done by Peter Wright as well. It was I'm not going to say it was an interesting game. I don't think it was that, to be honest. I think it was. We pretty much knew where this one was going after the result of that first set. He didn't see any fight back from Mickey at that point, which is disappointing after a solid performance in that first round earlier in the night.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone was under any illusions this game was just all going to be about Peter Wright and what he done. I mean, at the end of the day, he's the world champ. I mean, there would have been, when he seen the draw, especially after his lack of preparation, no disrespect to Mickey Mansell, but he'd have been happy that, look, he wanted to be pushed more, but he'd have been happy in a way that it wasn't a tougher first round draw, that he can just get through. Like you said, he can go way back, go home for Christmas now, get a bit of more practice under his belt and come back. I think he's back in the 27th. I could be wrong now, but for some reason that's the date I have in my head, and just get ready for that next round match. I think he could potentially be Kim Huybrechts or whoever he is facing tomorrow. I have it written down somewhere. Grant Sampson, how could I forget? So look, he'll just be happy to get through to and play again after Christmas and prepare for that third round match.
Yeah, he will indeed. Tuggs, there's no excuse playing twice. He should be fined and banned. Look, I disagree. In this tournament, in every other tournament, potentially, but in this tournament, the winner of the first game of the tournament is the only player expected to play twice in a night in the entire tournament. That's completely different to everybody else in the highest stakes tournament of the year. I think there is an exception to be made a little bit there. I also don't expect the DRA to get involved like they have done previously. It'd be incredibly difficult to fine Mickey for that performance, which I'm not sure I agreed with the first time, despite whatever state they're going to say both players are in or whatever. When a player literally 2 matches before has won a game, averaging 0.21 points lower.
Yeah, regardless whether we're speaking about if he's had one too many drinks or whatever, I mean, even the adrenaline and to be so pumped up to come back down, to go back up again. I mean, even the tough, we see players in the other events that run over the course of a day. I mean, even the best players struggle with it. To come back up and go back on stage again after being away, and look, it was always going to be tough for Mickey. Like we said, he's just going to be happy that he got through that first round match. It's another win on that stage. Prize money for him is going to be massive. And look, I don't think we can really blame him too much for a bit of a lackluster performance in the second match.
Correct. Biggest showcase of sport, and he's right, mate. It's not. Hey, look, there are far bigger names that get in far worse states, but because they can play a little bit better doing so, get away with it frequently. You know exactly who we're on about. So let's not go down that route. What we are going to do is hear from your defending world champion who is into the third round, Mr. Peter Wright.
To be honest, I played rugby all year, and that's why I'm like full favourite for the competition. And when I won it the first year, I think I was third or fourth favourite. And I beat the favourite and the second favourite on to win the tournament. So it doesn't matter. I hate being favourite. I'd rather be the outsider, and everyone else talking about all the good players instead of me. I've done enough practice in the past month. I'm ready for the World Championships anyway. So people might say because I haven't played competitive darts, but I know how to win this tournament. I don't need to be playing the Players' Championships. I don't need to play in the Grand Slam against the best players in the world. It's doing the right things at the right time.
You just steal Michael's line. I know he's not stirred it and annoyed anybody at that point, but stealing your rival's favourite line might not go down so well right at the end of the clip we've just played you. A quick reminder that all of the post-match interviews will be available in full on our YouTube channel. You can check them out once you finish watching us. The 3 from this evening. There will be 4 per night for the foreseeable until we complete round 2, I believe. So do check those out. Phil will be down at Alexandra Palace, and do make sure you subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of those being uploaded throughout the day, because obviously you'll have 8 tomorrow, because we do move on to a double session. This is where the World Championship really starts to pick up pace. Now, we've had the opening night, we've had the teaser, but tomorrow night we get 8 matches of darts, and what a couple of sessions of darts this could be. Right, Liam, we are 40 minutes in already, and we do have 8 games to predict each. So let's just go score lines and a small line. If you've got anything in particular to say about them, let's not do our usual 10 minutes? Oh, I'm not sure. Let's quick fire them a little bit, shall we? Match number 1, Alan Suter against Mal Cumming from Australia. Where you going with that one?
Yeah, Suter's done really well at the Grand Slam recently. Done well at the Worlds last year. Can't see anyone other than him coming through that. He's a grafter, Suter, and I think Cumming might pick up a set there, but I'm going to go 3-1 Suter.
I think I'm following you that one. I spoke to Daryl Gurney, who awaits the winner of this one, by the way, and he's pretty much seeing it the same way, by the way. Anybody that was a professional tour card holder should be able to come through these games pretty unscathed, and Suits has been fantastic for the last few months. So I'm going Suits as well, and I'm going to say 3-1 as well. Tug has gone Suits. Tommy's got Suits 3-0. Jack's got Suits 3-1. Mr. David's got Suits. Tommy's got Suits as well. Pretty much a clean sweep on that one. As ever, if you're in the chat room and not used to this, by the way, you can fire your score predictions in, and we'll try and read some out. Might even flash some up on screen as well. Match number 2, Boris Kirchmar against Toru Suzuki.
Yeah, I think Boris wins this one. I'm going to go 3-1 Boris. I think, again, the Tour pick up a set, but I think Boris is just going to be too strong here and get over the line.
Yeah, I like Boris in this one as well. Former first-round loss in the World Championship to Manos Razma, 3-0 in sets 2 years ago. Played in the World Cup of Darts as well. But I'm going big bad Boris in this one. I'm going to say 3-0 in this one. I like Boris's pace. He's just going to get on with it.
Yeah, I mean, Boris is a good player, Boris, when he's in full flow.
Mm-hmm. Tommy's got Kirchmar 3-1. Mr. David's got Boris. Tug, big bad Boris in big capital letters. Boris 3-1. 3-2 upset to the Cumming, says the distance. The first player to go against with an upset in the opening 2 matches. On to number 3, and what I'm quite looking forward to be honest, beware the Adrian Lewis at Alexandra Palace, I think, especially this Adrian Lewis. In the last couple of years, we've been waiting for him to click and give it bigger and get back to where he was and whatever else. But I think we've seen more glimpses this year that it is possible that Adrian Lewis can produce a run at this World Championship. And with Damon Heta sat waiting in the next round for the winner of this one, whose TV form has been questioned a lot, I think there's an opportunity in this part of the draw. And because of that, I'm going to say Adrian Lewis wins this 3-1 as well. I think he might drop a set. Daniel Larsson's steady. We've seen him play plenty of events before, World Cup, Euro Tours, Tour Card as well at one point, I believe. I'm not writing him off, but I think Lewis has too much for this one. I'm going to say 3-1.
Yeah, I agree. I think Lewis 3-1 as well. I just think Larsson will nick a set off of Lewis. I think there'll be a little bit of rustiness in there. But I think Lewis, I'd really love to see him go on a run this World. A World Championship with Adrian Lewis in the back end of it is a better World Championship for everybody, I think. I think we'll all agree on that one. So I just hope that Lewis can come through this one and set up a tie with Damon Heta, who will not be pleased to see that it'll be Adrian Lewis for him in the first round match, or round 2 for him at the Worlds.
No, I agree. Jack's got Lewis 3-1. Tommy's got Lewis 3-0. Mr. David's got Lewis. Tug 3-0 Lewis. Distance 3-2 Lewis. Larsson will push him, and Bob's got Lewis 3-1. The final match of the afternoon session. And I've been trying to get big on Kim Huybrecht's game this year so far, thinking that there's a little bit more of a climb coming and he might start pushing back towards that top 24, top 16 perhaps. Hasn't quite materialised yet. But he does take on Grant Sampson in round 2 to close out tomorrow afternoon session. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're all hoping that we can see the return to form that we saw from Kim Huybrecht around about 7 or 8 years ago. I mean, we know how capable he is. I mean, that match against Gerwin Price, I only watched the back end of it there this week. Last year, that produced fireworks, and we know that Kim has a really good A game when he's on it. And I think this will give Kim a chance to get into the tournament. No disrespect to Grant Sampson. I think he had a brilliant win tonight, but I just can't see anyone other than Kim winning this match. And I think it'll give Kim a chance to just get his feet under the table a little bit and get into the tournament ahead of what could be a Peter Wright showdown in round 3, I think. I'm not too sure. I don't have it open in front of me now, and I think it'll be routine for Kim Huybrechts, and I think he will win this 3-0.
Try and find it now. 27th, match 8. I believe you're right. Yeah, it would be as we state with Kim Huybrechts. I'm going to go 3-0 in this one. I think Kim's just got that little bit more than Keane Barry, that little bit more experience, that little bit more of an edge to know when to celebrate and when to give it the big one at the right time. And I think that will help him over the line tomorrow. Tommy's got Huybrechts 3-1. Bob's got Huybrechts 3-2. Huybrechts 3-0 for Jack. Sampson, says Colin. He's back in the upset 3-2. Tugs being a muppet. Barry says Suits, Boris, Lewis and Kim, all 3-0, all quick and easy. Good night. I think you mean good afternoon, Barry, because there is an evening session to follow. The distance has got Huybrechts 3-0, usually steps up at the Worlds. On to the evening session, and tomorrow night's session is a belter, by the way. Now we are cooking here at the PDC World Championships, opening up with Roby John Rodriguez against Lawrence Ilagan. Roby with that little bit of an edge to him at the minute, walking on with the sunglasses, 2 trebles in, giving it to the crowd for the 180 against Lawrence Ilagan, who has technically one of the best throws you'll ever see. He loves to jump about on stage a little bit. This could be a real classic.
Yeah, there could be quite a bit of jumping around tomorrow evening, this first session. That'll get us warmed up very nicely for the matches that are to come afterwards. I think Roby John is going to win this one. I think, we've seen brilliant form from him this year. I had it 3-1, and I'm going to stick to it. I thought about changing it there a second ago and changing my mind, but I'm just going to go with 3-1 to Roby John.
I think I'm going to do the same for one reason in particular. Next year is when the Asian Tour returns. And I think the absence of the Asian Tour has hurt those players. We've seen Lawrence play for the Philippines in the World Cup a couple of times. A couple of years ago, when him and Malikdom drew England in the first round, I was really big on both of them. They were firing in 9 darters in Asia and all sorts. But I think the lack of them being able to play competitive steel tip match darts in Asia has been an issue for a while. And the return of the PDC Asian Tour next year will certainly help Lawrence and the others on that tour pick up those wins and potentially look at moving to the tour. But I just think this year is a year too early, and we might be seeing a little bit of a wasted opportunity for Lawrence Ilagan, because he's fantastic technically, but he hasn't really produced any of those moments individually just yet. And I think Roby will have too much for him as well. So I'm going 3-1 in this one. Jack's got 3-1 as well. Tommy's got 3-1 Roby John. So has Tug, 3-2 Roby. Lawrence has some good soft tip form going in, 3-2 Rowby. RJR 3-2, close match. Mr. Davis says Ilagan, his sleeves up, he'll have his shoulders up. Can you imagine if he does that at -7 in Alexandra Palace tomorrow night? What a lunatic. On to match number 2, and this one is possibly one of the most hotly anticipated matches of the entire tournament. Willie O'Connor takes on Bo Greaves, the 18-year-old female sensation, reigning female women's world champion. She won 8 straight, and the recent World Masters champion, by the way, won 8 straight PDC Women's Series to move up to second on that order merit and book her spot here at Alexandra Palace. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, I really, really hope that this lives up to the hype. I mean, this is the first round tie that I've most been looking forward to. I think this is really intriguing. I mean, it's been so hard to call a winner of this. I really think the crowd is going to be could be a big factor in this result. But I just think William O'Connor is so, he's a seasoned professional at this stage. He's so solid when, his action is solid. I think Bo, it's going to be really tight, but I just think his average level across the board is better than Bo's if it's that kind of game. Bo, I think will have to pursue something special to beat Willie. Now, I would expect Willie's standard to drop a little bit if the crowd revving up there, but I just think he's going to sneak past Bo. I'm going to say 3-2. I think it'll be scrappy. I think there'll be missed starts at doubles. The crowd is, like we said, it's going to be probably going wild. But I just think O'Connor will have just that little bit too much for Bo, and I think it's just going to sneak past 3-2. It could go all the way. Yeah,
for me, this is all about how quickly Bo settles. I think if this goes scrappy early on and O'Connor comes out with a first set, it's difficult for her to recover from that, just because of the experience that Willie will have in that moment, and being a seasoned professional that he is in with that experience. If she comes out and batters him first set, like we saw Lisa Ashton do to Jan Decker a couple of years ago, I think she walks this game. If she blows Willie away, I think there will be that fear factor. We saw Jan properly rev himself up, but we also saw Lisa drop off massively in that performance that year. I don't see a massive drop from Bo if she starts at that level, because at that point it's set play, it's not leg play. So she's not got to maintain it, she's just got to produce it a couple of times in each set. She's got to stay consistent and actually go, bang, there's the 180. Her timing in the women's series was impeccable. Even in games where she wasn't being pushed, in a leg where it looks like she's about to throw it away perhaps, or not quite switched on, bang. So she can produce it and is more than capable of producing it. It's whether or not she gets caught up in that moment, and that start for me is absolutely massive for her. However, I am going to back Willie O'Connor. I just think there's just a little bit too much to him. I think he's a bit of a wily character. We've seen that edginess to him when him and Steve Lennon went deep in the World Cup before, followed up with decent run at the Players' Championships as well. Just think he's got that little bit too much to him where he just won't be fazed by it either. He won't be fazed by the moment.
He has that kind of steely attitude at times when it matters, and I just think, I mean, it's Bo, don't get me wrong, it's been brilliant what she's done this year. She's had the match practice for the World Masters win just last week, but like we say about O'Connor, I just think he's been around a little bit too long now to be caught a little bit cold, maybe like Ted Everett was a couple of years ago, and I just think that he'll just sneak over the line.
Yeah, I agree. Some predictions in the chat room. Jack's got Bo 3-2. Tommy's got Willie. Tommy's also got O'Connor 3-1. Tug says, trust me, Bo can win this. I think everyone believes she can. It's just, will she, I think, is the difference. Mr. Davis says 3-1 either way. Distance says 3-2. Greaves upset on the cards. Tug says Bo 3-1. Willie O'Connor fired up. Best of 3, I'd say Bo. Best of 5, have to go O'Connor. Perfect. Right, let's move on to the penultimate game of tomorrow's session. It's Keegan Brown against Florian Hempel. Two players that haven't had the best of seasons. Probably would say they had better 2021s than they had 2022. Florian Hempel in particular, having to go through the German Super League to be here rather than actually produce it on the tour, I believe. Have I made that up? Did he win the Super League?
I remember being on, but I can't remember who won it.
20 past midnight, and I have absolutely no clue anymore what day it even is. But Hempel not been as impressive as he was last year. Keegan Brown has won a Pro Tour this year and still at risk of losing his tour card. This is a massive, massive game for the Needle tomorrow afternoon. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, I mean, I do see it going all the way. I just think it'll be another nip and tuck game. I mean, I kind of changed my mind once or twice when I looked at it. I thought Keegan Brown maybe, but now I'm just going to stick with Florian Hempel. I just think over the last 18 months, he's probably been on better form, and I'm going to go off that. I know it's a long time ago that I think he had a good run here last year, didn't he? Or he knocked someone out. Is it Dimitri Vandenberg he beat last year?
I think so.
So I'm just going to go with Hempel. I actually like Hempel. I think he's a good level to his game, and I think there's a lot of potential there with him, and I think he'll just sneak past Keegan Brown 3-2.
I'm going to go the opposite way. I'm going to go Keegan. I just think, again, that big stage, winning big TV matches experience is going to come from Keegan. And I know Florian's got that level, but the absence of seeing it throughout this entire year until late on in that Super League, and even that's not stages, it's a little bit different. I just think Keegan's got the edge in that regard. Been practicing with Richie Howson today, I believe, as well, who's going to play at a similar pace or used to Florian. They set the dart a bit differently, but they're both similar rhythm in terms of how long it takes him to throw the dart. So I think he's going to be well practiced for this, and I think Keegan will win this one 3-1. Who do we have? Tommy's got Hempel 3-2. Jack's got Keegan 3-1. Tug's got Keegan playing very well at County. He wins 3-1. Pete Adams says Keegan Brown 3-1. Bob says Hempel 3-1. Tricky to decide. Desperation for both. Keegan will have the crowd. 3-2 says the distance. Final game of the night then, Liam, and then we can wrap up and go to bed. Michael Smith, the world number 4. Yep, still just.
Yeah.
World number 4 and the new Grand Slam of Darts champion. That monkey is finally off his back. Will take on Nathan Rafferty to close out the evening session. No disrespect to Nathan here, but I think Michael Smith has too much for him tomorrow night. I just not the best players championship finals from Michael Smith, but this is where we start seeing him go deep again.
And look, I mean, there's no doubt that now that he's got that monkey off his back of the major title, that he's going to turn into a different animal. But I just wonder. I mean, everyone now has said Smith. They're saying they're putting him out there all the time, and I just wonder: is it still a little bit too early? I mean, like maybe he'll just have to win one more to really start getting the ball rolling. Then, I mean, everyone is putting him in the frame now. They're saying that he's going to win the World Championship. And I mean, this event is like no other. I mean, there's only a couple of select players in the field that have been able to do it. And I mean, it's such a long format over so many, over a couple of weeks. I mean, it's different to any tournament on the calendar. But look, I don't see Rafferty causing much of an issue here. I think he had a great win tonight, but I just think there's levels, and I think the top 4 are kind of a level above the rest of the field at the moment. And I think Smith is going to come through. And I'm going to give Rafferty a step, but I think Smith comes through comfortably 3-1.
Yeah, I hear what you say. I think if we are going to see the concerns about it being too soon for Michael Smith, it's going to be in the latter stages of this tournament. I just think, go up there, do your job. He doesn't seem to try too hard anymore, which I think we've seen from the past in Michael Smith. And that sounds ridiculous to say, but there are moments where he just wants it that too much. He wants every dart to be perfect and almost plays himself out of form. I think even if he finds himself a set behind tomorrow, I think he can go off the stage, reset, go again. I just think he's got that maturity in his game. I was saying it even before he won the Slam. There were times earlier this year where he just had that maturity. It just looked like his time, the way he was bouncing back from setbacks, going again, and his mentality has changed an awful lot. And even though he's won that Grand Slam as well, I've tipped him to go far. If it doesn't come off for him, I'm sure he will again in the future, but I think he's got too much for Nathan in this one, and I'm going to go 3-1 as well. So in the chat, the final predictions of the night, Jack's got Smith 3-2, G's got Bully Boy 3-1, 3-0 for Tommy. Smith wins 3-1, says Tug. 3-0 for Peter Adams. 3-1 for Bob. 3-0 says The Distance. And that's all the score predictions in that one then, folks. A massive thank you for joining us for the opening night of the Fallout Bar from the PDC World Darts Championship. A big thank you to our friends at Betfred for sponsoring all of our coverage throughout this tournament. To everybody in the chat room, you guys have been absolutely amazing. Thanks for joining us this evening. If you aren't quite ready to stop watching darts, do head over to the Modus Super Series channel or to Sporty Stuff TV, and you can catch up with all the action from the Modus Super Series this evening. That will finish on Saturday night and then break for the rest of the World Championships. If you don't listen to any of the interviews in full from the winners tonight, apart from Mickey Mantle because he played twice, you can do so on this YouTube channel as well. Just go and find them. Make sure you drop a like and comment on the chats as well. Get involved on all of those. We will be back, or I'll be back tomorrow night. It won't be you, Liam. I think I'm on with Charlie tomorrow. So thanks for joining me this evening, buddy. Hopefully we'll catch up with you throughout the rest of the tournament. And one final thing, do make sure you're following us on social media to keep up with everything going on throughout the PDC World Championship. Thanks for tuning in tonight, everybody. We will see you all very, very soon.